5 days, 5 days. Oh. We're all working hard. We got to win. We can't let that alternative win. That would be a disaster for our country. So I want to just say a very big hello, Nevada. We're doing great in Nevada. And I'm thrilled to be back in this beautiful state with thousands of proud, hard-working American patriots, and you are that. You are that. But I'd like to begin by asking a very simple question, very easy one. Are you better off now than you were 4 years ago? I've come today with a message of hope for all Americans. With your vote in this election, I will end inflation. I will stop the massive criminal, and you see it, the criminal invasion. Some horrible, deathly people. We're not going to allow it. They're destroying our country. We will stop it immediately. And I will bring back something that you haven't heard of for about 4 years. We're going to bring back the American dream, and I want to just thank you. You're going to bring it back. And that's all you really need to know. And remember, Kamala and Sleepy Joe, they broke it. I will fix it, and we'll fix it fast. And we're going to have America that's bigger, better, bolder, richer, safer, and stronger than ever before. And, you know, we're doing fantastically well in the polls. And I want to thank a man who's with us. And I said, Joe, you got to go because he's got some big stuff going on, and we got to win this thing. He's heard my speeches before a little bit. But you have a great governor here, Joe Lombardo. And where is Joe? Where is Joe? Thank you, Joe. Is it okay? Can he go and do some business so that we can win and he can take care of some young people that are incredible and love him? Joe, thank you very much. You go home, Joe. Thank you. Appreciate it. Great job. Joe Lombardo, everybody. Thank you. He's a good man. This election is a choice between whether we'll have 4 more years of gross incompetence and failure or whether we'll begin the 4 greatest years in the history of our country. We're going to bring it back. We're going to bring it back fast. And I'm asking you to be excited about the future of our country. That's not an easy thing to do when you see these clowns, these horrible, horrible people we have, running our country. I'm asking you to dream big again. Dream big again. This will be America's new golden age. That's what we're going to do, a golden age of America. Every problem facing us can be solved, but now the fate of our nation is in your hands. This is a very big state for us. This is a very big state. I love it. I'm here a lot without campaigning, but I want to tell you this is a big one, and it looks awfully good. It looks, I don't want to say, just keep voting, keep voting. You got to get out and vote. On Tuesday, you have to stand up and you have to tell Kamala that you've had enough. You can't take it anymore. She's horrible, the worst there is. There's never been anybody worse on the border. She's the worst. She is the worst vice president in the history of our country. Kamala, you're fired. Get the hell out of here. You're fired. The worst. Horrible. Horrible. She is horrible. And she lies. Every time she gets up, she tells a lie. Donald Trump will not allow fracking. That's a first, by the way. I won't allow. Donald Trump will not allow drilling for oil, which is going to make us rich as hell. No, he doesn't. No, she lies about everything. IVF, she lies. I feel like I'm the father of IVF. She lies about everything. She's worse than Crooked Hillary, actually. You know, Hillary was a lot smarter, and she lied a lot, but this one lies about everything. She just makes it up as you go. We've been setting records in early voting, as you probably know. Thank you, Michael. Appreciate it. But we can't let up. In-person early voting in your state ends tomorrow. So get out and vote. But the main thing is you gotta vote. You gotta get that Tuesday is a very special day. It's a big day, and we can close this thing out. We're leading for the first time, I think, ever, right? We're leading in early voting for the first time ever. That's right. Never happened because, as you know, Democrats always lead in the early part, and the Republicans like to go there on Tuesday, and I understand that you want to see your ballot go into a box. I'm not even sure you see that with this craziness that we have, but we're going to get it all changed. But we're doing really well, and to be leading in early voting is unprecedented, so that's really great. So it's an honor. And if you can't make it tomorrow, you got to make a plan. You got to be there on Tuesday, everybody. Who has not voted? Whoa. Whoa. Who has voted? Great. That is great. Wow. Thank you very much. That's great. Thank you. Look at that. Oh, I'd like to know what casino you work for, huh? Look at that. That's great. So those that haven't, get out and vote. Every vote counts. Thank you very much. With your help, we're going to win Nevada. We're going to defeat Kamala Harris. Kamala. And we're going to, what are we going to do? We're going to make America great again, right? Over the past 4 years, Kamala has orchestrated the most egregious betrayal that any leader in American history has ever inflicted upon our people. She's violated her oath, eradicated our sovereign border, and unleashed an army of gangs and criminal migrants from prisons and jails, insane asylums and mental institutions, from all around the world, from Venezuela to the Congo. Today, I want to hear directly from a mother whose world has been absolutely shattered. This just came out, and everybody that sees it is like devastating. And there's so many things happening like this with the illegal migrants, so many killers. We're not going to let it go on. Please watch.
Sunday night, I asked her to not stay up super late because of her coming to work with me in the morning first to do her summer school. She said, okay. I told her good night and I love you. I went to bed, not realizing that that was going to be the last time I saw her.
We're best friends.
Yeah.
We're going to shake it again.
I woke up to notice she wasn't in her bed. I'm in my heart trying not to lose my mind because I don't know where she is. I finally remembered her phone had a location on, and her phone was pinging just 2 minutes down the road, right behind the skate park. I start driving to the direction the phone was being pinged at, and I see a couple cop cars with lights on. I see yellow tape. And immediately my heart drops and sinks to the bottom of my stomach. My daughter's hands and ankles were both bound. She was strangled to death, left with no pants. And I know in my heart, she fought incredibly hard. She was not going down without a fight.
We begin with two men we're learning are charged with capital murder tonight, accused of killing a 12-year-old girl.
Police say these men strangled her before dumping her into that creek. Both men were in the country illegally.
Apprehended, then released by Border Patrol less than 3 weeks before Jocelyn's death. The men accused of killing Jocelyn Nungare are affiliated with the gang known for brutal violence.
Kamala Harris was in charge of immigration in our borders. If we had better border policies and not open borders and not these catch and release policies, I truly believe this all could have been prevented. Under her being vice president of this country, my daughter's life was ripped away from her. She had her entire life ahead of her.
Happy birthday, dear Jocelyn.
My daughter is 6 feet in the ground based off of policies that she allowed to keep. Kamala Harris did have one job, and she not only failed, not me, she failed my daughter. She failed Jocelyn. She was only 12. President Trump reached out, gave me his sincerest condolences as not a former president, but just as a father, someone who cares. I believe Donald Trump needs to be back in office. I can at least know that my next child will be safe in this country.
Thank you very much. So sad. Thousands of people all over our country. This is constant. These are some really tough people, some really bad people coming in. They make our criminals look like nice people. That's how tough they are. They are just so bad. The jails are being emptied into our country. Jails from the toughest countries are being opened up and let in through her stupid open border policies, totally unvetted. Nobody knows who they are, where they come from. Countries you've never even heard of. The day I take office, the migrant invasion ends and the restoration of our country begins. And I believe it's the biggest problem. Biden and Harris. You can't say Harris because nobody knows who Harris is. Nobody knows. You say Harris, nobody knows who the hell she is. But that's great. Thank you, darling. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you. The savages charged with brutalizing and murdering Precious Jocelyn are members of the same vicious Venezuelan prison gang, Tren de Aragua. And they're taking over apartment complexes in Aurora, Colorado. We have a governor who's petrified. He's a radical left lunatic, and he's petrified. He doesn't know what the hell to do. He's lost. I call him a lost sheep. And they're unleashing a violent killing spree all over America. The United States is now an occupied country. Can you believe I have to say that? We're an occupied country. They're coming in, and they're by the thousands, and they have equipment that's military-grade equipment. How do they get that? They have military-grade equipment, but it will soon be an occupied country no longer. November 5th, 2024 will be Liberation Day in America. Liberation Day. On day one, I will launch the largest deportation program in American history. We're going to get them out. We have no choice. I will rescue every city and town that has been invaded and conquered. They are conquering areas of our country. They're conquering. We don't know, and nobody wants to talk about it. And the fake news, of which there is a lot back there. Whoa. It's a lot. They don't want to write about it. They don't want to talk about it. They don't want to. They'll write about it after the election. No, you don't want to write about it now. And we'll put these vicious and bloodthirsty criminals in jail, or we'll kick them the hell out of our country. We'll want them out. Through our open border, Kamala Harris is also actively aiding and abetting the worst human traffickers, child smugglers, drug dealers, and bloodthirsty criminal networks on the planet. There's nobody worse than what she's catering to. They even have an app number, where to call, so they can dump off illegal migrants. They have an app. Can you believe it? They have cell phones. They have airplanes flying over the border, loaded up with migrants that they're dropping all over our country. The cartel's profits have soared from relatively minor numbers to $13 billion from human trafficking alone under border czar. She doesn't want to be called border czar. She was the border czar, but you know what? She was in charge of the border. And by the way, the Border Patrol, they endorsed me very strongly. They even said I was the greatest president in the history of our country. Now, I said, does that include Abraham Lincoln? Does that include the great George Washington? They said you're the best president, and you're the best president on the border. We had the best border. Drop that, please. Drop my all-time favorite graph. Do you mind? I love this. I sleep with this. I kiss it. I kiss it. Oh, that saved my life, I guess. Without that graph, I wouldn't be here right now. I looked over to my right very quickly, and I noticed there was a little problem. A little bit of a problem. Lunatics. We got lunatics out there. But that says it. The last day that I was in office was the arrow on the bottom. That was the lowest day in the history of our country for illegal immigration. That was done by the Border Patrol and ICE. And then it became like an Elon Musk rocket ship. Look at that. Look at what happened. That was the lowest day we've ever had in terms of illegal immigration. By the way, the drugs were equally low. The whole thing was so good. All that guy had to do is leave it. He went to the beach all the time, right? He could have gone to the beach, but he went to the beach, but they made changes. Instead, remain in Mexico. I got things that nobody could come into our country. They had to remain in Mexico. I think Tijuana might have been the fastest growing town in the history of the world. Hundreds of thousands of people, but they weren't in our country, and we want people to come in, but we want them to come in legally, right? We want people to come in, but they have to come in legally. We don't want murderers and drug dealers, and we don't want them to open their prisons. Think of it, they're opening their prisons and dumping them on us. But every day they're stealing innocent lives on both sides of the border, both sides. Just days ago, a young U.S. Marine Corps veteran named Nicholas Quetz from Arizona was driving through Mexico very routinely. Who would think this could happen? For a beach weekend with his great friends. Everybody loved him. He had a lot of friends. When he was viciously gunned down on the highway and murdered by members of a Mexican cartel. And we're joined today by Nick's wife, Carrie, his father, Douglas, his mother, Patricia, his sister, Alexis, and his brother-in-law, Phil, and they're beautiful people. And if they'd like to come up, I'd love to have them just to honor their beautiful boy. I'd love to have them. Come on up. Go, good. That's great. This is a great family, a perfect family, and what happened to them should happen to nobody.
Hey, so unscripted, I really wasn't planning on being here. 2 weeks ago, I was a completely apolitical actor. Anybody outside my own home wouldn't have known who I would have voted for. Today, the situation changed for me. 2 weeks ago, Friday, my son was murdered by cowards, shot in the back on the way to the beach in Mexico. The reason I bring that up, and some people have questioned why was he in Mexico? He was in Mexico going to pursue his life, enjoy his life. We grew up as a military family, had been around the water. He loved it. We don't have Arizona Beach, so we call Rocky Point Arizona's beach. A lot of people go there, hundreds of thousands a year, I think, transit there. Plenty of Americans own property down there. So that happened. We got the call from the State Department, very professional. That night, no news in the United States to speak of. Sunday, still no news. Monday, still no news, other than the very most local level with no publication. Tried to get in contact with elected leaders, heard nothing. Tuesday, reached out to my local representative. He put me in contact with Senator Vance. Senator Vance coincidentally was coming to Tucson for a speech that day. I can't imagine how busy Senator Vance, President Trump are running their campaign. Senator Vance, I asked for 2 minutes to talk to him. And, I've met in my line of work, and I'm actually still a current federal employee. That's one of the reasons I've stayed apolitical. I'm a 20-year military retiree, so I've dedicated my entire life to this country and doing... My son, who was murdered, is a 4-year military veteran of the United States Marine Corps. He worked on vertical assault from the Ospreys, so he'd fast rope out of helicopters. My daughter is actually a drilling Army reservist, and my son-in-law recently medically retired due to issues sustained on active duty. So our family's a military family with generations and generations of service. I bring these things up as an apolitical actor and somebody who struggled, the kind of Americans many are, who probably sit around their table and say, who are we going to vote for, go back and forth, decide what we think is important. And we struggle on that, and we actually pray on it. And many people ask me, how can I stand up here today 13 days after my son was killed and talk in front of groups? And it is through the grace of God, and I do believe in God and a higher being. I do believe my son Nicholas has given me the power to be here, has given my wife the power to be here, has given my daughter. Karime, who is Nick's wife, and my son-in-law Philip. And Philip has done such a great job, so now I have one living son, and that is Phil, because one was stolen by the cartel. So when I met with Senator Vance, and because I am apolitical and met many leaders from up to the level of National Security Council plenty of times working different issues for this government, I asked him a question, and I said, sir, before we talk, I need to know if I'm speaking to the candidate, the senator, or the Marine. And he said, I'm JD. I need you to tell me what I can do for you, and you tell me what you can do for me. And he meant it as a way of helping him to help me. So JD Vance was awesome. I asked for 90 seconds. He gave me 15 minutes. At the very next morning, better? The very next morning, and after having tried to reach my elected officials for 5 days, President Trump's office called me. President Trump, in the fight of his life, offered to meet with us. President Trump gave me 15 minutes of his time to talk about what we could do. I asked him for some things, and he helped. I asked him, A, for U.S. involvement, and we know he's candidate Trump right now, and there isn't a seated president. I asked for U.S. involvement in the investigation with the Mexicans. I asked for extradition of the killers after I found out under the current U.S. code, not all can be extradited, only if they're tied to RICO activities. In this case, they probably are tied to RICO activities. They are probably coming back, but I'll defer all questions on his investigation to the FBI. And I asked for a working policy in Mexico. In my career, I worked in, one of the things I worked on was Plan Colombia, very similar situation in security as to what we have in Mexico today. It was supported by Senator Biden. That's out in public record, you can look at it. We have no working policy with Mexico right now. Count the numbers of illegal immigrants, whether they're private, whether they're dangerous or not dangerous, and you'll see a number of about 25 million crossing back and forth. And then when somebody says, why was Nick in Mexico? My son was an hour from our house when he was executed by cowards. That's how close it is. But it is a national security challenge, not a local border state challenge. We have these type of things with Tren de Agua and MS-13, anybody else you want to name, plus unnamed criminal organizations. The cartels, they operate with impunity in Mexico. They've infiltrated every level of their government. The local police are helpless because they're not properly equipped. State police a little bit better, but not, and then the federal. But we need to work with the Mexicans on this to go forward. So what I'm leaving you with, and I'll give this back to President Trump, to whom you came to listen, not me, is this. For most of us in this room, and honestly, I would not have been in this room because it wouldn't have been political 2 weeks ago. You know who you're going to vote for. But for the soundbite and the people looking at this, after 12 days, I received a phone call from Senator Mark Kelly. That was the 12th day. And he was gracious, and he offered his condolences. And I told him, sir, I appreciate that because I'm a respectful person. I'll work with anybody. But what I want is sponsorship of a couple things. One is change to U.S. code so that if committed crime against U.S. persons, especially murder, they are brought back here to face our justice. Number two is legislation that is enacted that takes us someplace closer to Plan Mexico, that'll institute not only military capability, but also institution building. And if we break out the numbers of what it costs, we can do that for much less than we spend on illegal immigrants. And we can make both sides of the border secure. People are coming here. Some come for economic, and we talk about that, but many of those people are actually fleeing due to the insecurity in their own country. If we can help them, we can help ourselves. Senator Kelly, and as I said, so this is bipartisan, but we need a leader who can enact it. And the leader is standing right next to me because he's promised to enact it. Bipartisan. And I will tell you, President Trump, former President Trump, however you want to name him, and I had some really good conversations. We had conversations between ourselves, two men looking at each other. The man had a tear in his eye when he saw the picture of my son, and the person that those that are on the have not committed and don't know, he's a decent man. He tried to help us, and he promised to help us. He also made a promise to me that'll be between the two of us, but if he's elected, I do believe he'll keep it. Sir, I can't thank you enough. Sir, I can't thank you enough for what you've done for my family in terms of calling attention to this. It was unreported in the media. Go back and check for anybody who looks. And I will tell you, and importantly, like I said, Governor Walz was in Arizona last Saturday. He had a convention. We tried to go. We asked to go. I've got electronic proof of it, so we can show pictures. They've already been released to the media. We're told it was full. It was in a high school auditorium, and we weren't allowed to speak with him. So when you wonder about where America really is and what the stories are, you don't have to wonder anymore. The man next to me and his vice presidential nominee, a current seated senator, both met with me within 36 hours of asking, and both took up the cause. And for any troll that is out there and says your son shouldn't have been in Mexico, if it's safe for 25 million people to come here, how can it not be safe for my son to go an hour south of the border? And for the trolls that say we're politicizing my son's death, I will tell you to go to the root of the word. It is the policy that contributed to my son being killed. It is the policy that's contributing to the death of other Americans, just like the video you saw that young lady. It is the policy that's contributing to fentanyl coming into the United States. Those are political failures, and we need to end them. Thank you for your time.
I'm asking you, help us get justice for Nicholas.
That's incredible. And frankly, to do that, to be able to do that, literally just a few days after this horrible event happened is pretty amazing, I'll tell you. We'll take care of it. We're going to take care of it. We're going to get that guy. We're going to get him. We're going to get him. They know who he is. Can you believe it? They know who he is. Nothing's done. Mexico's going to give him to us. Mexico's going to give him to us. They have to. They have to. It's going to be real easy. When I'm president, we're going to put the drug smugglers and human traffickers, we're going to put them right out of business. They're killing hundreds of thousands of people in our country. You know, if we had a war, it wouldn't be as bad as this. Hundreds of thousands of people a year are being killed. To expedite removals of the Tren de Aragua savage gangs, I will invoke the Alien Enemies Act of 1798 to target and dismantle every migrant criminal network operating on American soil. And if they come back into our country, it's an automatic 10 years in jail with no possibility of parole. And I'm hereby calling for the death penalty for any migrant that kills an American citizen or a law enforcement officer. And I will immediately ban all sanctuary cities in the United States of America. Sanctuaries for criminals. As we secure our border, we will bring back our economy, and very simply, I will make America affordable again, because it's not affordable anymore. They have destroyed it with this inflation, this horrible inflation, the worst ever in our country. Kamala Harris cast the deciding votes that launched the worst inflation of your lifetime. She cost the typical American family over $30,000 in higher prices. You look at your food bills, you look at the cost of food items. You know, more people tell me about groceries. The word grocery, I've heard it more in the last year than any other word, I think. I think I've heard it more than any other word, other than the word garbage. Garbage. How stupid is a man to say that, right? How stupid is a man to say that? But she believes it too. I'd love to hear the conversation now. Oh, boy. But now Kamala wants to raise taxes on the typical American family by an average of $5,000 a year. Kamala also launched a war on tip workers. It's a good place to talk about it. And service workers right here in Nevada, increasing the so-called tip allocation tax rate by 60%. That's why you don't hear them talking about no tax on tips. They don't talk about it because they're going just the opposite. In other words, even after Kamala wrecked your economy with inflation, she came after your tip income like a vulture would do, actually. She doesn't understand it. She doesn't know what it means. She has no sense of economics, none whatsoever. If she gets 4 more years, Kamala Harris will pick your pockets bare. We will not have a country. Everyone will flee. Our companies are going to flee. People don't realize these companies, these big, beautiful companies, they're run by international business people. They don't live here. Many of them live in Switzerland and Sweden and lots of other countries. They don't mind. They don't even think about it. They'll take these companies out of here so fast. It's a mass charge to see who can get what company, and they want to go, and they'll go. They don't care. They have no loyalty to our country. We have to keep them here by being smart, not stupid. I will massively cut taxes for workers and small businesses, and we will have no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, and no tax on Social Security benefits for our great seniors. And I will support a tax credit for family caregivers who take care of our parent or a loved one. You know, if we didn't have that, if we didn't have the angel moms and lots of different names, but the angel moms is an example. If we didn't have them, the great wife that takes care of a husband who is badly wounded, and vice versa, by the way. But if we didn't have that, caregivers, they really take care. We wouldn't have enough hospitals if we doubled the size of our hospital rooms. If we doubled it up, we wouldn't have enough hospitals to take care of our country. And now, of course, what's happening is you go to towns and cities all over the country, you can't have a hospital anyway because the migrants have literally taken over the beds. They've taken over the schools. They've taken over your son has a seat in school and he no longer has it because a migrant is they're giving him, actually, they're saying, you go first. The migrants go first. Migrants go first. Look at what's happening. Look at what's happening all over the country. The schools are bursting at the seams. The hospitals are a disaster. You go to the hospital, you have a problem, you can't get in. I will end Kamala's war on American energy, and we will drill, baby, drill. We're going to drill, baby, drill. And I'll terminate her Green New scam, one of the greatest scams in the history of our country, devised by a person who never even took an environmental course. You know who that is, right? AOC +3. Remember what she said, 12 years. Well, the 12 years has pretty much come up, Mr. Congressman, right? Matt, right? The 12 years has come and gone. We weren't going to be around anymore after 12 years. This is a young lady who, I don't know if she's having a lot of fun or what, but boy, I watched those senators. They were there for a long time. I watched them say, yeah, that's right. You know what her real goal is? $93 trillion. They don't want any more windows in apartments, no more windows. They'd like every building in Manhattan to be taken down and build a building with no windows in it. You have to be one of the greatest salesmen in the world to sell one of those apartments. I guess I have it wrong. I've always been known for having the biggest windows. I want those windows to be so big, right down to the bottom of the floor. And the bigger they are, the better they sell. That's just the way it is. I got to change my whole philosophy if you don't vote me in, because I'll go back to building crazy buildings now and I won't be able to use windows anymore. No, they don't want windows. They don't want cows. They don't want anything. They don't know what they want, actually. And I will cut your energy prices in half within 12 months. We're going to cut it in half. We have liquid gold. And then everything else is going to come down. It was energy that brought it up. It's going to be energy that brings it down. They screwed up that energy policy. They had it down to nothing, and then they snapped it back. They said, we're not going to win an election. The prices, remember, they're going through crazy. Then they got it back almost to my level. But see, my level wasn't right because I would have been 4 times that level by then. And I will be 4 times or 5 times the level very soon. Despite all of the damage she's caused, Kamala has spent the final week of her campaign comparing her political opponents to the most evil mass murderers in history. And 2 days ago, Joe Biden called our supporters garbage. Garbage. That's nasty. I think that's worse than deplorables, right? How did that work out for Hillary? I think this is going to work out even worse. And they mean it. They mean it, even though without question my supporters are far higher quality than Crooked Joe or Lion Kamala. Oh, look at that. Look at that. They had nobody like that. My response to Joe and Kamala is very simple. You can't lead America if you don't love Americans. You just can't do it. Can't do it. You can't be president if you hate the American people, and they do hate it. They hate the American people. Who would have an open border policy where prisons and jails and penitentiaries are allowed to freely walk into our country? Where gang members are taken off the streets of Caracas, Venezuela, and dumped into our country. We don't even know their names. We know nothing about them. They're free to roam. They call it free to roam. Congratulations, you are free to roam. And they killed 4 people, you know. It's crazy. The 13,000 plus that we have, the killers, these are murderers from jails. Can you believe that? These were all murderers, convicted murderers, in jail, in prison. And we know nothing about them. In fact, we don't even know where they are. But they're out there someplace. I'm sure we have a few of them. Welcome. I'm sure we have a few of them sitting. This can give you a little bit of the yips, right? You're sitting down now and you don't know whether or not the guy next to you killed 5 people. No, we're going to get him out of here. We're going to get him out fast. We're going to get him out fast. And our local police are going to be activated. And if we had the cooperation from the fake news, which you don't, it would happen relatively quickly. We're going to be able to do it. No, our local police, let me tell you, they know every one of them. They know their middle name. They know everything about them. They know what country they come from. They know everything. But they're told to stand back. Don't touch them. Don't do anything. Stand back. They don't want to stand back. Just like Border Patrol. They go crazy when they see these people pouring in. And they can look at them and they can see trouble. They go trouble, 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 trouble. No trouble, trouble, trouble. They can look at them and they can see good or bad. Kamala Harris is not fit to be president of the United States. She doesn't have the intellect, the stamina, or that special quality that real leaders have to have. She doesn't have any quality leadership. She shouldn't even be there. He got 14 million votes. Look, I'm not a fan. But we had a debate. He didn't do great. His numbers went down. Big deal. We wanted to see him, and they say, you can't win. You're out. This is, we call him a threat to democracy. They look at me, I'm a threat to democracy. I am the least threat. I'm the one saving our democracy. Oh, crazy Nancy. She's crazy as a bedbug. She walked in and she started screaming at him, you're out of here. You're out of here. Get out of here. And it's amazing, her and some of her friends. And yet with Nancy, she was a big owner of Visa stock. She started off with nothing, and now she's worth $200 million, they say. But listen to this, with her husband. What was that all about anyway? That was a weird deal. What was that all about? So she's got the husband, and they buy stock. And she was a big owner in, I believe it was Visa, and big owner, big position. And we didn't know this, but Visa, it was going to be announced the following day that Visa was under major federal criminal investigation. And Nancy sold all of her stock at Visa the day before that came out. I don't know. Sounds a little bad. What do you think, Michael? A little bit shaky. She said it was by strictly coincidence. She said it was by coincidence. No, well, but I don't see the press. Did you guys write about that at all? I don't think so, huh? Joe Biden's comments were the direct result of Kamala's decision to portray everyone who isn't voting for her as an evil and even subhuman person. And we know it's what they believe because look at how they've treated you. They do treat you like garbage. They really do. For the last 9 years, Kamala and her party have called us racists, bigots, fascists, deplorables, irredeemables, even Nazis, and they called me Hitler. My father was a great guy. He was a strong guy, but a good guy with a big heart. Strong, but really a warm guy. Whenever we walked down the street, we'd come sometimes into Manhattan. That was a big treat. And we'd see, in those days, you don't see that anymore. Now you see it at a very much higher, at a scarier level, frankly. They put a gun in your ribs and they say, give me what you have. But they used to hold tin cups out. And he'd always walk by and he'd always put $100 in it. Anytime he saw it, he'd put $100 in. That was like $1,000 today, maybe more. I said, that's nice. I always remembered it. It's nice. But he told me once, I don't even know in what reference, but he said, never use the name Nazi. You don't use that name. Do you understand me? And never use the name Hitler. You don't have to say Hitler. Don't ever say Hitler. Do you understand? And now I'm being accused of being Hitler by these lunatics out there that have lost control of our country. Our country we're riddled with crime. Every city, you take a look at it, it's falling apart. They smell, they're dirty, they're criminal-ridden. You take a look at what's happened to our great cities, it's a shame. And you know a city, and I hate to say it, I hurt myself. I have property there, San Francisco. I have a lot of property in California. It hurts me. But I don't care about this. Look, to be president is a big deal. So I don't give a damn about my property. But I own big property in San Francisco. San Francisco. Now I lose another 25 million by this statement. That's one. San Francisco is almost unlivable. And it's because of her. She was the DA who destroyed San Francisco. She then became the Attorney General. And she destroyed, along with Gavin Newsom, one of the worst governors in history. She destroyed California. More people moved out last year than moved in. First time that's ever happened. I mean, they have the best weather, in all fairness. In all fairness, they have the most incredible weather. And they have the beautiful ocean. They have the beaches. They have everything. And you got to work hard to screw that up. But he's done it. He's done it. You know, they just passed a law on voter ID. Do you know that? That not only don't they have voter ID, but it's against the law for you to ask somebody for voter ID. So if you work at one of the very few places that would even have the consequence of asking, because there are no places. You know, they just mail out millions of ballots and they come mailed back in. They don't know where the hell they're going, although they have a pretty good idea. They tend to go to Democrat neighborhoods a little bit more. But they mail out like 38 million ballots, and then they get mailed back in. They shovel them with shovels into kids and bullshit. Because I'll tell you what, if I ran in California, you know, I went to California with the family of our great congressman and his wife, Ginger, who's incredible, Matt Gaetz, Mrs. Gaetz. And their family had a little event in a beautiful part of California, and nobody could believe, you couldn't even get on the streets. It looked like Lindbergh just arrived on Broadway. It was so crazy. We would do, with a fair count, we would do great in California, the right guy. Now, me, I would do great because Hispanics like me. I'm glad they love me. They should love me. And I love them. But I would do great. If we had an honest vote, I always say, if God came down just for one day to be the vote counter, in other words, I would win in California. I would. It's a disgrace what happens. Think of it. They send out millions and millions and millions of ballots. They go out, they come back. You know, it's interesting. When you go to a legitimate place, like in Florida, they've done a very good job. But I go into Palm Beach. I go in. They say, sir, I know who you are. I mean, I fully understand who you are. You're the president. But, sir, could I see your identification? Oh. And I say, you're doing the right thing. I actually say, don't be embarrassed. You know, they're very embarrassed. Sir, I mean, I don't know how to ask, but could I see it? I say, yeah, here. Oh, thank you, sir. I thought it was you. I thought, no, they feel good. And then they give you a paper, and you sign the paper, and you put on whoever you're voting for. Maybe there's a bond issue or something, and you do a check, and they're watching, and then you sign. They walk you over to essentially a container, but it could be in the form of a machine. The fewer machines you have, the better, by the way. The fewer you have. You know, Elon Musk told me he's the greatest. I would say, you got to say, in terms of computer, I would say he's probably about as good as you get. And, you know, I watched that big rocket come in 2 weeks ago. It came in, that sucker was going to crash. I said, no, don't let it crash. I tell the story. I was talking to a very important person on the phone, very important. And I'm watching the screen. It's muted. There's no sound, but I see this, seeing live. And at first I thought it might be like a space-type movie, you know, some kind of a crazy movie. But this rocket comes in and it's all burned. You know, it's coming down at 10,000 miles an hour or some crazy speed, and they're just like on fire. But now it's like the size of a 22-story building. That's pretty big, right? And it's coming in, and I'm talking to this guy, and I say, do me a favor, hold it just for a second, okay? I gotta watch this. I put the phone down. I never picked it back up. Can you believe? And because I'm president, but more importantly, because I may be president, he held on for 45 minutes. The guy held on. You know, if I wasn't president or if I had no potential to be president, he would have hung up in the first 30 seconds. But I picked that up like 45 minutes later. I said, hello, 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 President. Very important guy. Everybody heard of him. I felt so badly, but one of those things, but I was fascinated. So I see this massive 22-story ship coming down, and you have the gantry or whatever the hell they call it nowadays, and the ship, and it's coming too fast, and I'm like, oh, no. Don't do that. I don't want to see it crash. And I didn't know it was Elon. I assumed it might be. I mean, why not? He has everything else to. But the ship is coming down, and then I see the bottom is going to hit that gantry, and then I see an explosion of fire. Pushes it like that, just perfect. The fire's all over the place. The whole thing is burning. There's smoke. I never saw anything like it. Then, boom. And then the arms come out. And just like you do with your beautiful little baby, he grabbed that sucker. And it was secure. I said, it's the most incredible thing I've ever seen. It was going to crash a thing. The fire, everything just, computer, right? It was all, I called up Elon. I said, Elon, you know, he gave us the greatest endorsement. He said, it's the most important election we've ever had. Do you know where he is right now? He's campaigning in Pennsylvania. Can you believe it? With all he's got to do, because he thinks it's the most important thing he can do. But I said, Elon, was that you, the rocket? Was that you, Elon? I called him up. Hello? I said, how you doing, Elon? Okay, what's up? I said, Elon, was that you with the rocket? Yeah. I said, you're unbelievable. I said, can Russia do that? No. Why not? They don't have the knowledge, and they never will. I said, can China do that? No. I said, why not? Because I have the knowledge, and they don't. It would take them 10 years before they can do that. I said, can the U.S. do it outside of you? No. I said, that's why I like this guy. That's why I like this guy. Hello, Mr. Senator. I just see you there. The Barrasso man. He's one of the greatest people. What a great. I didn't know you were going to be. I'm very impressed. I guess Sam Brown must be doing very well for you to be here, huh? We got the leader of the Senate. We got the leader of the Senate here. And I know it's not for me, so it has to be for Sam Brown, right? Thank you. Thank you. Senator Barrasso is an unbelievable guy, and Sam is unbelievable. And we're going to get to him in 2 seconds. And he really is. By the way, you know, I do the weave, right? You know the weave? It's genius. It's genius. I can go here, but it's always related, maybe sometimes just a little tiny bit. But I can, like here, over there. Because I look, I see them, I say, whoa, there's a senator, one of the biggest senators, and one, maybe the most powerful guy. Because Mitch doesn't have it anymore. No, he may be the most powerful guy in the Senate. And I'm very impressed with you, Sam. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. But nobody has given up more, right? Nobody has given up more who's run for the U.S. Senate than Sam Brown. Nobody. And we should put him in office. Nobody has given up what he's given. Defending us.